Hello, beautifuls. Welcome back to JuJu Thyme. In this episode, in the Sacred Serpent, where the stories are sacred, the wisdom, it runs deep, and the ancestors still whisper. In today's tale, this tale is from a time where the animals all gathered for this grand council meeting to talk about reform. But very quickly, things definitely started to take a turn. For me, when I was reading this tale, it is funny, it is sharp, and in all honesty, it is as true then as it is now. So I'm really excited to dive into my own thoughts and contemplations when I was reflecting on this tale and this story and what it's deeply reminding us of. But before, once again, I get into any of that, I want you to get comfortable. This tale, it does speak in like a riddle, but the truth, it lands. So, let me tell you how this meeting went. One time, there was a big gathering of animals and fowls and birds to talk about everybody behaving better. Instead of talking about doing better, they start to talk about what other folks doing bad. Brother Hyena up and complained about the way Brother Buzzard was carrying on. Seems his complaint was Buzzard was getting there first to eat. Then Brother Wildcat complained about the troublesome mice and rats. 'Pears like he liked to eat mice and rats real good. Then Brother Tiger up and groaned about the rabbits, saying they was the worst of all. Old Brother Coon, he couldn't stand the way the talk was going, and he called the meeting to order. Friends, Brother Coon say, we all got to do a lot better, or we're gonna end up in bad shape. What have you all got to say about reforming ourselves? Brother Tiger, he talk right up. I'm for reform, he say. I see Brother Coon stealing corn every night, and it got to stop. Then Sister Cow came in with, I'm for reform too. Brother Tiger, he got the blood of my young ones in his mouth, and it got to stop. Brother Elephant say his piece then. Look who's talking about things which got to stop. Sister Cow is eating up all the grass and leaving no nothing for the elephant. Brother Wolf chime in with his song saying, men are going around carrying guns and knives, and it isn't safe no more to go after 'em. Brother Coon, he called the meeting to order again. We got to have less complaints and more reform, he say. Who has got something to suggest? Well, Brother Deer pop right up and say, all the animals got to stop eating meat. Brother Wolf don't like that proposition, and he say what's needed is for all the animals to stop eating grass. Sister Chicken, she say they all missed the main point, which is that they got to kill all the snakes. Then Brother Fox say, no, I rent my cave to the snakes. What we got to do is kill all the worms. The birds don't like that at all, figuring to starve if the worms are killed. So they all kept at it, everybody trying to keep what was good for himself and get rid of what his neighbor wanted. At last, old Brother Coon rise up and say, now, if any of you folks are agreeable to get rid of something you like for yourself, say so. But nobody didn't say a word, just sat so quiet you could hear the potato vines growing. This is sure a sinful world we are living in, Brother Coon say. But when everybody just find fault with everybody else, it's time to quit and go back where you come from. You got to begin charity next door, but if you want to reform, it's got to begin at home. You know, when I first read this tale, I immediately thought about individualism, about how everyone in the story, just like in real life, was quick to name what others were doing wrong, but unwilling to give up anything themselves. Now, while some had valid points, you can still feel the thread of hypocrisy woven in, like the wildcat complaining about the troublesome mice and rats, but he's the very one who likes to eat mice and rats. Or how Brother Hyena is upset with Brother Buzzard just because Buzzard beats him to the feast, as if they ain't both trying to feast on the same thing. And then, you know, there's the wolf talking about how it ain't safe no more because humans are carrying guns and knives, and he's basically mad that he can't hunt humans in peace anymore. You see what I'm saying? This story, it's hilarious and sharp at the same time, and it hit me hard because this is the world we are living in. And I hesitate to say like we're living in it today, because I'm pretty sure if we were to sit down with our past selves or with our ancestors on some shape or form, they would probably like, you know, say something along the lines of, oh yeah, you know, I recognize that, you know, or maybe on some level, you know, they would be like, no, what you're going through is a completely next level batshit craziness. I mean, who knows? Who knows? But this is definitely the world that we are living in. And of all the animals, it's the raccoon trying to bring order. Now, I don't know a whole lot about raccoons off the top of my head, but I did do like a quick search. And spiritually, the raccoon is often seen as a symbol of adaptability, resourcefulness, and the uncovering of truth behind masks. And like, oh, I loved that. Like, I had to let that sink in, you know? Everybody in that meeting was real loud when it came to pointing fingers. But when Brother Coon asked, like, who was willing to give up something they liked, it was silence. Pure silence. You could hear the potato vines growing. First off, I love that line. That was like my favorite line in the whole, like, in the whole tale. I'm going to start saying that in like my everyday life somehow. But anyway, this tale feels like a mirror. You know, when I think about everything that's happening around the world, you know, the conflict, confusion, the blame, I see this story in all of it. The wild thing is, we keep asking why, but deep down, we know why. The answers are already in the room with us. They're just inconvenient, right? This reminded me of two personal experiences. One in like my day-to-day life, and like one of what I saw online. Right. So first, so I'm African American and I'm living in Europe. And lately, I've been getting this question from white Europeans and some Africans from the continent. But they're asking things like, what's happening in the US? Why is this going on? I thought America was better than this. And like, there's a part of me that rejoices a little bit. Like, finally, the mask is coming off. You see what I've always seen. Hell, what minorities and the oppressed have always seen. And even when I was young and I couldn't name what I was seeing, but I knew what I was seeing and experiencing was wrong, now that's on display and you see it now clearer and clearer. But then like there's another part of me in disbelief. Like, what do you mean what's happening? What do you mean this isn't how the US is? Or why is this happening now? Like, it's always been this way. And sure, listen, I'm going to admit it. America's got the best PR campaign in the world. White picket fences and equal opportunity for all. That dream is global propaganda. But the truth is centuries deep, And I just also remember like this, like these same kinds of questions came up during the Black Lives Matter marches, and even then there were white Europeans trying to ask me, why is this still happening in the US? And it's so funny to me because in both scenarios, right, when they're asking, when people are asking about what's happening in the US and, during the Black Lives Matter marches and asking why is that happening and blah, blah, blah. In both of those scenarios, I want to just laugh because it's as if this isn't happening in their own backyard too. And so, yes, with then and now, there's this mixture of like, finally, the mask is coming off. And also, what are you talking about as I'm looking around, And this also like brings me to what I saw online. It's a video of, oh my goodness, Kuti. I'm gonna apologies for butchering his name. Seun Kuti. He's a Nigerian musician, and I believe recently, he was performing in Croatia, and he was like addressing the youth and basically like the global north, really. And he said something like, oh, y'all want to free this country and that country, he's naming Congo, Palestine, Iran, Sudan, he's naming them all. But then he's like, but you need to free Europe. Free Europe from racism, fascism, imperialism, et cetera, et cetera. And like, woof, that right there, right? That's this tale all over again. Like I was witnessing the tale all over again. Just like, in the tale, brother raccoon trying to bring order and reflection, But, you see the blame game. You see the hypocrisy game. You see the refusal to look inward game before shouting outward, In this tale, Kuhn says, you got to begin charity next door. That line rings so loud in me because if something is happening to your neighbor, it's already happening or will soon happen to you. It doesn't matter if there's a fence in between or an ocean. And that's why I believe so strongly in the connection and the intertwinedness between the micro and the macro. The micro, which is like the small, can mean like home. Now, home can mean your body, your mind, your family, your block, and that ripples into the macro, the large being your community, your country, the whole damn world, hell, the universe, right? It gets small to large and large to small. They're all connected and intertwined, you know? So when folks stand in disbelief at injustice or suffering, I have to ask, like, where have you been? Because if you see it now, it means it's already close to home, you know? Now for us, those of us outside of religion, those on spiritual paths, we might pride ourselves on our awareness. We talk about rising into, 4D, 5D. Hell, some of us got our heads chilling in the 6th dimension. You know what? Look, I get it. There's purpose in that elevation. But we have to be careful not to use enlightenment to escape responsibility. Which then brings me to another experience I had. So I remember once being invited to a church in Prague by this Ghanaian woman. And you know what? For me, a message is a good message. I don't really focus on where it's coming from because I know what's true in my own self and being and what works for me. So listen, a message is a good message, right? So I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'll go. I'll fuck around and find out. Why not? So I go, and oh boy, hearing this white pastor tell a room full of Black folks to focus on heavenly riches instead of earthly problems like money and politics because they were all just distractions away from God. Oh my God. It's just problematic. Listen, actually, problematic is an understatement of what was going through me. That same rhetoric about don't worry about your suffering, just wait for paradise, has been used to control and pacify for generations. And honestly, it reminded me of the way of some of the new age folks talk about peace and love and detachment and how we're all one and we're all the same and none of this is real. And listen, I understand the intention, and on some level, it's true. I value the elevation, but I also wonder, I wonder about the responsibility, right? I wonder, could a part of enlightenment be not detaching from the world, but seeing it more clearly and choosing to do better and helping others along the way? when I think of, I remember, something else I saw online recently about how Earth, now this I'm not quite sure, but I remember something about like science was some science was showing that the Earth was spinning a little faster, or also how like the heartbeat of the Earth or something like this, and how it was like beating fast, and it was like I don't know, mimicking like anxiety. I don't know, but it's like not detaching even from Earth, herself. Listen, I'm not gonna claim myself to be a Bible girly, and I'm trying to like wrap the connections that I'm making into words, when honestly I wish I could just put you all in my head and just hope it makes sense. But listen, okay, apart from like the connection to Earth herself, another thing that I think about that comes to my head when I ponder on this is like, didn't Jesus flip over tables when people were getting taxed? Didn't he like heal lepers for free? Didn't he hang with the marginalized people and the so-called sinners? Didn't he challenge political authorities, raise the dead, and defend women? I mean, listen, I don't know, okay? Once again, I'm not a Bible girly, okay? And I don't have the answer, okay? I'm still figuring it out for myself. I'm still trying to figure out how to stay aware, but not soaked in the pain, I'm still trying to figure out my own balance of holding both the earthly and the cosmic. But this folktale, I feel, gives us a piece of the puzzle, right? When Brother Coon says, you got to begin charity next door, and then he continues, but if you want reform, it's got to begin at home. And for me, as I talked about, this, as not being just your household, but this is like your whole backyard and your whole being, the micro to the macro and the macro to the micro. It's all related and connected. And the sacred truth of this story is simple, ancient, and urgent. As Brother Coon foretold, we all got to do a lot better, or we're going to end up in bad shape. So now I ask you, as I'm also asking myself, of course, what's one thing we are willing to give up? What's one thing you are willing to give up before you go telling others what they need to do? But listen, just like you, I am but standing in front of the ocean and the cosmos in complete admiration of how much I don't know. But I'm excited that I get to be a student of myself in the world, so I can continue to explore what else unfolds. Until the next one, truth and love.